So I keep saying it's my last video, but continues to be my last video before I leave New Zealand. Obviously now I have a bit more time, having packed everything and moved everything and done everything, even though I can't find my birth certificate to get a social security over in the US, but I can just order a new one. So I have had just had a few more kind of downloads. I've just created a t-shirt of one of my shows. I am actually doing it in a festival back here in New Zealand in a couple of months, but they're paying me so well that I can come back. But yeah, I just had a few things to share. So I have been posting just like gratitude on my socials for New Zealand, and the person who designed this t-shirt actually, which is from a show I did in New York, said, oh, it's really refreshing to hear someone being really positive about New Zealand as they leave rather than dissing it. And I think that's because I've done so much healing and so much work, and I think it's not in anyone's interest really, but certainly not your own, to take the energy of resentment or negativity with you to where you're going, and because I do feel a lot lighter from going, and knowing that I've worked through a lot of things and have the strength to go, but yeah, I had another friend say to me today, oh, maybe you should write down a letter or list of patterns that you've been working on or changed or broken, or in your time in New Zealand in the last 5 years since coming back from Europe, and then release, like burn it all to release for the next chapter. And so I've just done that, and there's like 14 points. I thought there was going to be 13. I was like, oh, that's death. I'm a Scorpio, it makes sense. 14 is, I think, temperance, the balance in the tarot. So and one of them jumped out to me to just share, which there was a lot of recurring themes across a lot of the work that I've done, but a lot of it came back to basically trusting yourself, not giving your power away, not people pleasing, not caring what people think, stepping away from drama, all this kind of stuff, choosing your battles, being enough, not letting people walk over you or manipulate or bully, etc. But and just detaching. But one of the points that jumped out was around, I think it was sort of like point, 8 or something, was not needing to prove myself as an academic or an activist as much, because those are two things that I have done a lot of in my life. My whole art practice really has been formed around politics and activism and intersectional politics, and it came from academia when I did my BA. All of those things, identity politics, deconstructing, post-colonial, intersectional kind of philosophy, but dropping that has been really liberating in my time in New Zealand, which I think has been quite a spiritual time in a way, because it's been so much kind of introspection and growth caused by that. But yeah, I just finished my master's MPhil from Berlin, which was working a lot with activism before I transitioned to New Zealand, and I've always been an advocate for others and for myself as well. But it was an interesting point to pick up, because I said no to this PhD recently, and I've noticed myself feeling really loath to follow suit on any kind of like virtue signaling or activism online, because it's, first of all, isn't particularly real, being social media. It's like posing as activist, but second of all, just like goes against the principles of free speech or having an opinion or thinking for yourself, to fall in to what other people want you to do or think, and even disappointing the university to follow my truth. It's quite liberating. So just being like, dropping identities and you sort of know you've got mastery if you don't feel any need to really have others defining you or getting you to define or prove yourself within those areas. I will always be an inherently critical, intellectual person with, and inherently activist and political, but they're not the only things that I am, and sometimes I put those on the shelf, or the rational or the material goes against my more expanded existential ways of being and ways of thinking around being more connected and liberated from these things. And then other times, those things are really important. So I'm going to be going into the lion's den, going into the US elections right now, on all those fronts, but I'm kind of excited by it because it will be fresh. I'll be fresh, and because New Zealand politics isn't super great right now, and it hasn't been, and it's easy to idealise the other and see the grass is greener. But also another point was, because I said something about I'm going to miss this beautiful country in one of my posts, and someone wrote to me, well then stay. And she was like, she's an older artist who was like a performance artist who said, they've got enough over there, like we need you here, which was really lovely. And I took it and I was like, thank you, that's really sweet. But I just have to go for my own growth and journey, and I may well end up back here. And I think feeling grateful for New Zealand is fantastic, because it puts you in a less vulnerable position, knowing that you can return, or you're not running away from something, you're running towards and your own growth and expansion. So I was like, well, you don't really need me, you guys can step in and take care of yourselves. I mean, I am an advocate of artists, but I also need to advocate for myself and be in environments where I feel inspired rather than compressed. The growth, and I'm sure that it will be a new journey in which I will experience all sorts of things and be present to what is there, and got no illusions that it's going to be like this smooth sailing path, but it'll be interesting, adventurous and exciting. It will be filled with new opportunities, people, experiences, which I've really been craving in my time here, because it's something I got used to over in Europe before the pandemic. And I've been grateful for what I have had here, which is more community and more grounded and quite challenging, looking and facing a lot of stuff, but I do feel a lot lighter and better from making this decision. So you got to follow that. You got to follow your truth. You got to follow your bliss and other cliches. So just wanted to share that, and maybe I'll share some more videos in the next couple of days before I go, as things come to me. But allow myself to rest, and before this big journey has been really awesome, and I'm literally just going to spend the night and evening with myself doing very little. I was going to rush off to somewhere and go and see some more beautiful New Zealand sights, but I was like, you know what, I actually just need to rest. and I can feel it's going into spring, which is really beautiful. It's like turning it on for me to be like, you remember how beautiful we are? Yeah, and I was talking to a friend last night about how, yeah, the beauty is quite overwhelming in New Zealand of nature. Yeah, it can be quite dwarfing, I think, for the culture, but it can rest, I think people can rest on that and not develop themselves in lots of ways in New Zealand. So when things are more challenging around you, that's my experience being in other places, you develop yourself internally as a result of that, which I really appreciate. And yeah, but I adore New Zealand, obviously, and will be back, and I'm really grateful for the community and all the love and support as I do transit